All right, we are live. Well, recorded now, but hello and welcome. You are in the right place if you're like my client, CB. You've made an important decision by being here because this is the day that can change the entire direction of your life. You didn't realize that, did you? You thought you were just watching a webinar. Oh, no, no, no. See, I can boldly proclaim that today is the day that can change the direction of your entire life, and you are just the person to do it. It won't be me, but I will guide you. You're going to do the work. Now, I've gone and done all the heavy lifting as far as research, countless hours, days, weeks, months, years, the beta testing, 2 years in the works, the expert interviews, the writing, and the simplifying of the complexities of human metabolism. There's a lot of that. So you don't need to give much thought at all, if at all, to that. Just surrender to that part of the process because I got you covered. Now, where you will go to work is on implementing the strategies that have been proven to work. Time after time, person after person, 3 shy of 300 to be exact. Yeah, oh, awesome. And it will work for you. Do it for you and you alone. Now, sure, others will benefit, but you are the ultimate beneficiary of your life, and you must be the primary driver for it as well. I'm Dr. Sam Graber, and I work with women and men who don't like what they see in the mirror, and they're upset because they cannot get into the clothes they used to wear. They can't do the things they once did with ease. They're scared to death that this is the best it's going to get. And they're downright angry because despite doing what the so-called experts have advised, they continue to rack up failures. They are ready to take the decision and follow my lead to be coachable by hitting that reset button on their metabolism. And they're willing to invest the time and money in themselves to do it. So if any of this jives, pay close attention because this webinar is for you. All right, so before we go much further, I want to share a little backstory on how the ROXOlution came to be. So like most people on a mission, it started with a problem of my own that I just could not solve. So either my clothes were shrinking or I was expanding. And I think we all know what the reality was. I was steadily gaining weight around my hips, my thighs, my belly, and my booty, and it wasn't budging with my usual approach. In fact, I was packing on more pounds by the month. And I was starting to feel sluggish and like I was in a fog more often than not. And my memory, she had all but left the building. And this was not okay with me. So being a perfectionist by nature, I did a little mental beating up on myself. Yeah, doesn't everyone do that? Here I was, a credentialed health expert with decades of experience, and I couldn't solve my own problem. What was wrong with me? FYI, I'm a perfectionist in recovery. Day by day, I'm lightening up on myself. But see, in the past, I'd followed a weight management protocol that worked pretty well. I did what the so-called experts told me to do. I lived the eat less, move more strategy, followed the pyramid, and then the plate. I monitored my calories, and I watched my fat intake. Man, I mean, I feel like I was doing it all. I took my supplements, and I passed on really most desserts. I found they weren't really worth it anyway. And then I always opted for the whole grains and vegetable oils and skim dairy. That was a biggie. So I worked out semi-religiously. Whenever I noticed a little weight gain, I would tighten up my protocol and voila, almost like magic, the weight disappeared. That is, until I hit my 40s, and it all changed in a big way. It was so much more difficult to maintain my body composition, body fat to lean mass ratio. It was so much more difficult doing that since I'd already had 3 babies. And, I wanted to do it in a way that boosted my health and, to be honest, my confidence. So I asked other friends in the over 40 club. I asked them if their bodies seemed to revolve around 40. And after they stopped snickering at me, they simply stated, "Welcome to 40. Yeah, that serious tone of sarcasm, just like that. Now, in the spirit of transparency, though, for just a moment, I want to share something that I rarely recount in my own mind, let alone tell others. See, over the years postpartum, I'd had some pretty major flux in my weight. There was a lot going on in life. But there was a period in my early 2000s that I was carrying close to 50 pounds more than I weigh now. It absolutely broke my spirit. And it honestly, it brings up some bad recollections for what going on in that time in life. And I thought for sure I was broken. I struggled hard and I waged an unwinnable war with my body for years. I religiously accounted for everything I ate and drank. I upped my exercise until it almost killed me, and I hypercriticized my body and my self-worth. I am obviously not doing it right. I am an undisciplined hack. I don't deserve to look good. I'm not working hard enough for it, and so on. See, that was some of my inner self-talk about my body, and that mean-spirited B word, she returned right around my 40th birthday to try to break my spirit again. Honestly, she had her way with me for a couple of years, not quite to that extent. But that was until I really stepped out of the consensus box and I tried a radically unorthodox approach. And it worked massively. See, I did the exact opposite of what I've been told and taught others for decades. I'd advised literally thousands of people to do what I had been doing over 25 years in my practice at seminars and on the air. I had a radio show. So get this, what I did now. I upped my fats to levels I thought for sure would clog my arteries, conventional wisdom brainwashing, and decreased my carbs to seemingly radically low amounts. I'd seen some articles on Facebook, and I noted in that people were having success with this lower carb approach. So I went to work and did a little digging. But now you might be asking, okay, does her strategy work before 40? Yes, most definitely. And those 39 and under are more than welcome to stay. And I'd love for you to avoid what so many of us have really needlessly endured for way long enough, all right? So if you've got excess body fat, it is a sign that your body is in biochemical crisis, and trying to diet it away will continue to fail until the underlying problem is corrected. I help you fix that problem once and for all. And it's done with real food. Never buy an overpriced, overpromised gimmick again, ever. Up until now, you've been part of a massive hoodwink. We all were. The advice of the self-proclaimed experts who were pretty much just product pushers, whether potions, prescriptions, or patches, see, their advice misses the mark by a long shot. Question for you. So if you were told you had a spot on your lung and it's most likely a tumor, would you quit smoking or just cut back? You'd quit, of course. Any person in their right mind would. So now what if your doc told you he believed you could manage the size of the tumor with drugs? What would you do then? Would you continue to smoke and bet your life on these drugs? So let's apply this to the metabolism, more specifically the blood sugar spectrum. And I'll tie this into fat loss in just a moment. So the blood sugar spectrum, it runs from normal to full-blown diabetes type 2 with a wide range of gray in between. Actually yellow on this slide. But now, side note, this used to be known as adult onset diabetes, but now there are so many kids with it, it can no longer be called adult onset. Rather frightening, isn't it? Yeah. So the blood sugar spectrum, as the road to diabetes, it usually starts with crummy energy, maybe a little muffin top, then it works its way into elevated blood sugar, some high LDL, the bad guy. Unless you've read my blog, that's all a lie. So when we pepper in some added triglycerides, high triglycerides, and then a low protective HDL, and you have got yourself a first-class ticket on the Diabetes Express. All tracks lead to diabetes type 2 and 3. Type 3, that's a whole other webinar, but there's a type 3 if you're not aware of that yet. Check my blog. So now whether you're obese or not at this point is totally irrelevant. Your body is in crisis. Now, conventional wisdom attempts to manage these problems with drugs and more drugs. So in our tumor scenario, your doc pulls out the prescription pad, but also highly recommends, demands even, that you stop smoking altogether, for that was the cause of the problem. No doc in their right mind is going to say, go ahead, keep smoking. Just smoke organic, non-GMO, and cut down the number of cigarettes a day. Oh, and take 3 of these 6 times a day. So in the case of the blood sugar spectrum, your initial problems, they don't seem to be related to your blood sugars. Again, crummy energy, muffin top, high LDL, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, and low protective cholesterol. See, when a few of these are present in a person, they're diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. And here's the first clue that the problem is caused by food, metabolic. And the medical community even named it. So now, despite the name, you come out of the doc's office, scripts in hand, you got a statin for the cholesterol, an ACE inhibitor for the high blood pressure, maybe a pill that obliterates your appetite so you don't eat too much, and so on. Boom, nice little drug cocktail for you, hundreds, if not thousands a month for Big Pharma. See, in our tumor scenario, the doc immediately recommends smoking cessation. Yet in our obesity/blood sugar spectrum gone awry, your doc flies right past the what's causing the problem stop on our tour and lands smack dab in the pharmacy. Not one mention of stopping the offending activity. So you might be wondering, well, what is the offending activity? Spoiler alert, you could pretty much well classify blood sugar wonkiness, which is an official term, and excess body fat as a carb tolerance problem. So unlike our smoking scenario, quit the offending activity, your doc recommends you eat better carbs and manage your sugar and weight with drugs. See, across the board, eating carbs is touted as essential to a balanced diet and a necessity for all humans. But to the carb intolerant, carbs are their nemesis. I'll dive into that in my 12-step strategy in just a bit. So hold on to that. But you may be asking yourself, okay, so doc, why would they recommend drugs for a food problem? That is the question of all questions, and I'm so glad you asked, but you're not going to like the answer. The long and the short of it is ignorance, and this is how we've always done it, itis. And in all honesty, there's lots and lots of money in managing symptoms. Oh, and not to mention, they think you're too lazy to actually do anything about your problem. Sorry to say, it's true. So remember, metabolic syndrome, the scripts, we've got the statins, those are big money. We've got the ACE inhibitors, more big money. We've got diabetes drugs, whew, baby big money. And then we're talking big money. We've got our obesity profiteers. See, they want their cut too. And I'll get to them in a moment. But this whole they call it a healthcare system. It is set up around this. Absolutely, and you are right at the hub. What can we farm you out for? Okay, so instead of looking into what is causing the problem, they slap a diagnosis on it. So there's something to bill for, and they label it chronic and progressive. And wham, you are on the RX Express for life. You start out with one prescription to which another is added, and then another, and when this little drug cocktail starts to fail, and it always does, bam, you're on insulin for life. And the dosage keeps increasing and increasing along with your belt size. And the heavier, you get heavier and heavier. As anyone who's taken insulin will tell you, you get so heavy, they start talking bariatric surgery, big money. And you're practically begging for it at this point, hoping you're big enough to qualify because you are so uncomfortable. And what they've been recommending for years is failing you miserably. Here we go. It's a vicious cycle. Neuropathy, eye problems, eventually kidney compromise, which leads to dialysis. Now, forget keeping any job or hobbies you like. Dialysis runs your life now. 3 times a week, 4 hours a session. During the workday, mind you. Talk about inconvenient. Now, do you have the type of career and lifestyle to account for this time suck? How about your other responsibilities? Kids, aging parents, volunteer work. Will you be able to get to and from your sessions? All things to consider, because let me tell you, this is not the future you want, and conventional wisdom is forcing you into it by not addressing the actual problem. Too many carbohydrates. Remember, type 2, diabetes type 2 is considered by conventional wisdom to be, air quotes, chronic and progressive in nature. Now, I use air quotes because pretty much every allopathic doc will tell you diabetes is a lifelong diagnosis. It's chronic and it gets progressively worse over time. Now you have to manage your sugars and eat a certain number of carbs to keep your energy up. See, this is where docs like me freak the hell out. Diabetes type 2 is totally preventable. And if you have it, It is totally reversible with some work. Now, it is quite possible you'll be left with some permanent damage from the accumulation of the fallout. There is no time to waste. It's not an instant fix. There are none of those. Now, mind you, the pills they're pushing, they're not fixing anything. They're just adding to that chemical soup that is your absolutely overwhelmed biochemistry. Diabetes is an eating disorder caused by disordered eating, period. Case closed. So if you just manage it, let's look at it this way. It's kind of like managing a ticking time bomb with a broken timer display. You never really know when or if it's going to go off. But instead of working to disarm the thing, you just keep coddling it. Crazy, right? Same with blood sugar spectrum. So let's dismantle that ticking time bomb once and for all. You know, now thank goodness. Thank goodness we do not need to understand the intricacies of electrical engineering to flip on a switch and have light. Likewise, you don't have to understand the inner workings of human metabolism to flip on the switch for health and fat loss. Now I'm going to compress a ton of biochemistry into our remaining time together. I'm going to get to the heart of the matter. So buckle up, my friends. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. So metabolic syndrome and diabetes type 2, they get their needs from the body's needed increase of insulin. So your body has a need to increase insulin because a person ate more carbs than the body could handle. And they did this consistently and pretty much all day long, most likely for years. See, they were following the advice of the self-proclaimed experts. All carbs become glucose and fructose and a few other oses. Simple, complex, doesn't matter. We'll address glucose here. Fructose is a whole other animal worthy of its own lesson another time. All right, so eating excess carbs eventually leads to more and more insulin, which in turn continues to signal the body to store more energy for a rainy day. Insulin drives fat storage. That's its job. The more insulin present, the stronger the signal. So when insulin is high, you're storing fat, not burning it, not even one fatty axis. Okay, so after a while, maybe years, the body becomes insulin resistant, just as it becomes resistant to any strong prolonged signal, basically. So it has to dampen that signal so it can protect itself from damage. Think of it like a firewall. See, it's a survival mechanism. She's trying to kill me with the garbage. Shut down the system, girls. Every cell is stuffed to the hilts. It has maxed out capacity. It's merely trying to survive another day. So it is estimated that over 60 million Americans are full-blown insulin resistant right now, with many others well on their way. Some kids are practically born insulin resistant because their mothers were so hyperinsulinemic. So keep the 60 million number in mind when we talk drug money. Think lots of zeros and multiple commas. Think yachts, mansions, sports cars. Not yours and mine, theirs. See, for most people, they have plenty of insulin and it's doing their job, but they can't shove the glucose anywhere else. So it spills over into the bloodstream. There's nowhere else for it to go, literally. So you're finally diagnosed with diabetes and told to manage it with drugs. And have you seen how many are on the market now? As a side note, I mean, my goodness, you can't even watch a TV show without seeing an ad or two or three for drugs that are geared towards people who are diabetic type 2. It's unbelievable. So all along the way that we're playing this game and the body's doing what it needs to do and our glucose is registering within normal, maybe itching up a little bit, but pretty normal. All along the way, your blood sugar registered at normal levels while you're becoming insulin resistant. So this problem has been building for years, decades even. This is how it goes down. Pretty much every time. I've heard this story time after time after time. Yeah, small variations in the cocktail, yeah. And there's usually some flippant lose weight tossed somewhere in there. But time after time, this is the scene and it doesn't work. Some of these drugs will cause the pancreas to make even more insulin because your blood sugars are not controlled. and there's plenty of insulin there already. So your cells, they're practically marinating in it, yet the body cannot use this insulin. This occurs due to insulin resistance. Remember, I mentioned that just a moment ago. But this happens and it dampens the signals from too much of something. Your body is protecting itself. It is a survival mechanism. The pancreas eventually burns out. I'm off the clock. And now it is unable to produce adequate amounts of insulin. What? I mean, wait a minute. See, this never has to be. So how do we clean up this mess? How do we stop the war within and make peace with our body? Well, it starts with a twofold process. Part one is to decrease the supply. Okay. Now, part two, the second part, is to burn up what's already in the body. So the body has been shoving sugar into every nook and cranny, and much of that was turned into new fat via de novo lipogenesis. Big words there. And that happens in the liver. So your liver is literally creating new fat molecules from excess glucose. So you've got all this excess sugar in the system. It's excess energy. It's got to be stored somehow. And it's damaging you, possibly undetected. It needs to go. It's time to break up. It's not you. It's them. See, at this point, you should be upset. Angry, in fact, if you're processing all this. I know I'm going, kind of 90 to nothing, but if you can relate to what I've shared up to now, it should be getting a rise out of you. So you may need to listen to a recording to catch it all again, but bottom line, you've been misled. We all were. You've suffered needlessly, and all the while others have profited handsomely, and they have not been sharing with you. I know that. So if you've addressed the problem of the cause, basically, in the first place, like in our smoking scenario, not just silencing the system, but truly address the problem, you'd be in the clear, slim, and off the diabetes spectrum by now. But you didn't know how all this works. I bet what I've shared today has never come across your path before, ever, right? I want you to see what one of my clients wrote me just the other day. It really, really made me so happy. Yeah. I love hearing how people are incorporating my work into their lives and changing their lives and feeling like they have finally found something that's an answer for them. See, a while back, I had a phone consult with a woman who wanted to lose about 50 pounds. She's 190 at 5'5", and she says she carries most of her weight below her belt line, pretty much like I did. And she's been overweight most of her adult life since having kids, so about 25 years-ish, she said. Now, within 5 minutes, mind you, speaking with her, she started verbally beating up on herself. I have no discipline. I have no self-control. I am lazy. I never finish a diet I start. Hell, I don't finish anything I start anymore. I've bought so many weight loss programs and still can't get this weight off. I had to interrupt her. I try not to do that. But I have a strict no negative self-talk permitted policy, you see, because I am recovering from self-judgment purgatory. Remember, perfectionist in recovery? So I can spot it a mile away, and I will call it to the mat every time I see it. But her self-judgment default button, it's not uncommon. In fact, I hear it all the time when we start to really, really have a true conversation about this. See, we've been taught that being overweight is a character flaw. We're either a glutton or a sloth. We're weak and we lack that something that trim and fit people naturally have, right? See, the obesity profiteers, they love to keep us dissatisfied and frustrated and blaming ourselves for our weakness. This is where the big money is, baby. Oh, I mean, how it flows so well for them. See, they market their latest shakes, bars, pink drinks, every color drinks, patches, energy boosters, and all these other shenanigans to us, all ridiculously overpriced, mind you. But we buy them because we've been conditioned that there is something broken in us and we need something from the outside to fix us. So we've got to deprive ourselves by drinking and eating their elixirs because we are not deserving of joy from food, for we are gluttons, right? See, this is the great betrayal, and it is utter and total bullshit. Absolutely. See, the psychological and biochemical warfare that we've waged with our body has a lot of collateral damage. We have distorted self-images, often passing that to our children. More collateral damage. We spend years hating ourselves, thinking we are weak and undeserving of love, joy, and pretty much any other thing we pretty much deem that we are unworthy of. And it all starts up here. No one says this to us. We take it on. All because we didn't know this information and didn't have a strategy to manage our weight in a healthy way. See, we waged war. The body wants peace. Now, it boils down to biochemistry. I know, but stick with me for a minute, okay? So this is what happens when we eat. Biochemically, the body is doing all this stuff here. So let's take a look-see. All right, here's what happens to carbs. Here's the breakdown of proteins. And then over here we have the lipids. Seems rather straightforward, right? No? Right. It's not very straightforward. It's incredibly complex. So how about this? Popular science's take, yeah, it's just like her. Popular science's take on the metabolism. Now it's modeled after a subway, and really honestly, it's rather brilliant if you ask me, but it still looks rather complex, doesn't it? And aren't you thankful that you do not need to understand how all this works for your amazingly smart and resilient body to go to work? See, bottom line is the hormone that tells your body to use what you ate for immediate fuel, energy, or to store it for the future in fat, it's wonky. Remember, the official term. So there's a really detailed process for how all this works. And I go into that with my clients, but for our discussion here, just note that this hormone, insulin, is out of balance. And until that balance is restored, your body will favor storing energy as fat instead of burning it for fuel. Now, the seemingly schizo part is that despite all the energy and storage as body fat, you are hungry. There is no amount of food that is truly satisfying of this hunger. It's an insatiable appetite. See, this is where that guilt comes in because we've been told it's something you should control. Well, I got news for you. You can stop shooting on yourself because it's not up to your willpower, nor your self-discipline. It's biochemical, and you must address it on that level to correct the course. Now, the answer is rather simple. It just takes some patience and doing the right work. Now, don't mistake simple for easy, because they are not synonymous. Just ask Webster, right? So you need to switch your metabolism from being sugar-fueled to fat-fueled, so you can burn up that excess energy, store it as fat, and heal your body from the carb fallout. Remember, our two-pronged process. So your liver needs to be told to convert this adipose tissue, which is your body fat, and dietary fats into a fatty acid called a ketone. Now you can do this only when insulin is absent. Remember, we talked about that, marinating all the cells, shove and shove and shove all the glucose, right? So now when you're fat fueled, you burn ketones for energy. And FYI, your body loves being fueled by ketones. It's super awesome. All right, so there's an outdated model that we've all been taught. It's the conventional model of weight loss, basically calories in, calories out. This has been proven wrong on so many occasions. I've literally lost count. But you know how this advice goes. Burn more calories than you take in, and you'll lose weight. It's simple math. Remember? I mean, you've heard this so many times. But remember, we had that slide a couple back. We had all the circles and the areas and the formulas and the arrows. Do I need to break that out again? No, of course not. It's so crazy what goes on in the body. It's just amazing. And the more you learn, the more I know you're going to appreciate it. But seriously, metabolism is not a simple math equation, and it never has been. It is way more complex than that. And you have to run. Now, I do want to note this. You do have to run in a caloric deficit while providing what your body needs when it needs it. See, conventional wisdom has had this wrong for long enough. The way it really works is here, the carbohydrate insulin model. This is how I've been able to help hundreds of people solve their own metabolic mystery over the past 2 years with my metabolic reset. And I've enhanced that project by adding a personalized online platform that takes the guesswork out of the process. And I'll show you that a little later. So by the end of today's seminar, I'm going to ask you to make a decision whether you want to have a conversation with me or not. The options are yes or no, no think it overs, because they're just no's confused by someone with the inability to say no, and I get that, it's totally fine. But remember the kind of clients I work with. I want the all-in kind of client, or I don't want one. And by the way, I do not take no decisions personally. I really don't. In fact, it's your best decision at the moment, and it's not a reason to break up either. We can stay friends, always. So now recall that our strategy for resetting the metabolism, it must be twofold. So you've got to stop bogging down the system with the garbage, and we have to burn what we have. Now, my 12-step strategy covers both and tackles the mental and emotional part of the solution. Remember I was talking about that, all the shoulding and stop shoulding? So this aspect is missing from so many programs. And in all honesty, I think it's because people are afraid to go there. I am not afraid. Okay, I dive in head first with you, because if you don't handle that, lasting change is a pipe dream. So I'll send you this in a PDF. Just make sure I have your email. You can email me via Messenger. And then, just in case you came in after I started and I don't have your email registered here. Okay, so step number one is number one because it is by far the one that will make the most impact when the actions are right for the job. Take immediate action. The default setting of the human is to procrastinate. It's just how we're wired. So you may not feel like doing whatever it is, but keep this in mind. Activity dictates feelings, not the other way around. We have that wrong. Have you ever done something and you were dreading and putting it off and dragging your feet? And then once you did it, you said, well, that wasn't all that bad. We all have. Okay? So take immediate action. And at the end of the day, when you get to check off boxes instead of carrying them over to tomorrow, it feels so good. All right, now step number two is critical to short and long-term success. You must track your activities. If you don't, you won't know what to change to get the desired results. Because, newsflash, hope and pray weight loss is not a real thing. You need to track what you eat, and you need to find your best formula. I show you how to do that when we work together. You'll learn what portions look like, and they're not tiny. I promise. I love food. Okay, I love to eat. So usually we underestimate how much we eat. It's a human thing. But if you do not keep a record, you'll be bouncing from shiny object diet to shiny object new diet. Okay? You need to know if you're eating too many carbs to even help get into that fat burning metabolism. Are you eating too little protein? Too much? Too little? No bueno. Too much? No bueno. And too expensive. Who needs all that, right? So you need to see how you're handling stress and what's your weight pattern. The wrong approach to fat loss leads to quitting. And quitting on your long-term health is not an option. See, giving up on your goal because of a setback is like slashing your other 3 tires because you got a flat. Not on my watch, okay? I am an advocate for you when I work with you. So number 3 is a strategy that has been used for decades, but often incorrectly. You do not just run into time-restricted eating willy-nilly. You've got to help the body convert to burning fat and running on ketones first. Then you dial in the feeding and fasting. This is a big mistake many people are making and many people are recommending out there in the ether lands of the internet. Dr. Google did not get his or her official doctorate anywhere, okay? But time-restricted eating, what it does is it minimizes the amount of time your body has insulin coursing through its veins. And that is on our second side of the 2 sides of our solution. Remember, 1 is decreasing what you're putting in, and 2 is helping burn up and get rid of what you already got. This is how we burn off that stored fat and sugar. It is a brilliant design. And when done correctly, this is your secret weapon. And it's free, not to mention incredibly convenient. Okay? Now numbers 4, 5, and 6, they're going to depend on the individual. Number 4, protein is power. So you're made out of protein, and it's critical to get enough in your diet and that your diet is set up to help you recycle old protein and make new ones. So we'll find your PQ, your protein quotient. So you don't want too little, and you don't want too much because it's not necessary and a waste of food money to boot. But this is a very important part of our formula that we come up with together. Number 5, count your carbs and make them count. Now, remember what I was discussing at the starting point for that metabolic syndrome and the diabetes spectrum, carbs, and how much is too much and what's the bottom line to keep you from becoming insulin resistant. We have to track to know. See, some people, they're so able to do that flexibility. They've got metabolism flexibility where they can go from carbs to fats and they're boom, back and forth, no problem. But other people have to mind every single molecule of glucose. Well, almost to that extent, until their metabolism is streamlined. That's what we work on. So carbs are not essential to life, and I go into that in detail with clients because I know the better you understand how your body works, the better you can care for it, just like anything. But I mean, hello, this is your body. It's your most important asset. Now, number 6, it is the most confusing for people because literally, we need to be in a recovery group for this one. If you're over 40, you grew up, like I did, in the low-fat, non-fat craze. We ate rice cakes and non-fat cookies. I mean, what is the point of living if all we get to eat is cardboard? That stuff was disgusting. And we've been led to believe that animal sources of natural fats are out to kill us, and that seed oils, these refined, bleached, deodorized things, they're better for us than nature. Oh, sure. Nature didn't know what she's doing. Nope. So all this has been refuted over and over again, but the public is still being misled to believe that fat and cholesterol are public enemies number 1 and number 2. Not true. You need to favor the healing fats like coconut oil, ghee, and butter, and leave those seed and grain oils on the shelf because they do not belong in our bodies. And there is no such thing as a canola. FYI, it was created in a lab to be a cheap alternate for real oils, and it does not spoil. You'll often hear me say, if you stick around long enough, the longer the shelf life of your food, the shorter yours will be. If your food can't spoil, there's no food in your food. You can take that anywhere with you, unrefuted fact. Okay? All right, moving on. So number 7, the sweet tooth. If we could only get that baby extracted, right? See, our sweet meters, they're broken. We have been raised to be sugar addicts from the very, very beginning. In nature, sweet is associated with safe to eat. We are hardwired to seek sweet. Now, in the wild, that's good. But in today's world where we have engineered the wild out of our life, this is not good. It is bad, very bad. It's so bad it's killing us slowly and painfully. Even our fruit is sweeter than ever, and it's bred to be that way. Whether GMO or just good old-fashioned propagation, this stuff is off the charts sweet. And we love it, right? Hey, did you know that there are over 70 names for sugar in our food? Yeah. Now that doesn't even touch on the alternative sweeteners. Some examples, we've got agave nectar, corn syrup, sucrose, anything with an ose, rice syrup, pretty much anything with a syrup. Well, anything with a syrup, dextrose, another ose, high fructose corn syrup, but they'll just do HFCS now because they know we're hip to the high fructose corn syrup, but we don't really know what HFCS is. Now the list goes on and on and on. Now I can send you a cheat sheet of the most common ones and you can print that out with you when you go to the store. You will be shocked at the lengths these sneaky buggers go to try to keep their shenanigans unnoticed. But I see you sneaky buggers, and I'm telling everybody I know, and I'll send you that sheet. You just let me know you want it. Okay, so number 8, if what you buy is in a box and it has one of those nutrition facts box, the box on it, it is most likely altered in some fashion, ergo processed. Food is processed to prolong its shelf life, not yours. My rule of thumb here is if it has more than 5 ingredients, pay closer attention, because you should always be paying attention to what's in your food. All right, so let's look at a kind bar. A kind bar, I mean, come on. That's good, it's gotta be good. Let's take a sneak peek at the ingredients, okay? We got that here. So we've got peanuts, almonds, honey, sugar, non-GMO glucose, buzzword, non-GMO, love that one. All right, so we've got a whole food, sugar, sugar, sugar. 3 kinds of sugars in the first 5 ingredients. Now they have to label ingredients by weight, and their workaround is to use different sources of the first ingredient. So the first ingredient is not sugar. Ha, we're on to you buggers, huh? All right. I could dive into that for days, honestly. It's so wrong how they have been able to do this to us. The FDA, please, don't even get me started on that. All right, moving along. Number 9, proper hydration promotes optimal health. Everyone knows that. We know we need to drink water, but how much? Rule of thumb is to divide how many pounds you weigh in half and drink that many ounces of water every day. Boom, done. On to 10. All right, so the proverbial elephant in the room, stress. Our constant companion weaving in and out of our lives like it's been invited. I mean, really. Stress runs our life for the most part. It isn't just unpleasant, it is deadly. Stress wreaks havoc on our biochemistry. Stress releases cortisol. See, what was like back in the day, long time ago, what was once a running from something trying to eat you event has now in modern day turned into an all-day, day after day event. Cortisol inactivates insulin. This is the problem. So despite the fact that your body is marinating in the stuff, remember we talked about that earlier, the pancreas sees a bunch of excess glucose in the blood. And I'm sure it says something like this. Didn't I just clean this mess up? I tell you, a pancreas's job is never done. So back to work it goes. I'm pretty sure it's just like that. Back to work it goes, pumping out insulin. Here we go, more and more. Then massive bolus of insulin is produced, which again is rendered inactive by still more cortisol. This is one vicious cycle. It is a biochem battlefield, and you lose every time. We need to tame our stress. And a great way that I have found and has worked, I mean, wonders for me, taming one's stress by incorporating a mindfulness practice. See, mindfulness is an ancient practice for becoming aware of our thoughts and being still. You're probably laughing right now thinking, you being still? Because being still is incredibly difficult for people like me who move 90 to nothing all day long. And until I really embraced a mindfulness practice, I start and end my day with it, I never felt at peace. This has been a life changer and has helped me really focus in on the big things so I can stop sweating the small, right? All right, so sleep. This is that elusive creature spoken of and rarely seen in the modern midlife American man and woman's life, right? So did you know that sleep has a profound effect on your weight set point? Yeah, you have a weight set point. It's a really cool adaptive response of the body, and I love to teach my clients about it. It's a biggie. So now the sleeping pill, that kind, doesn't make the cut. Sleeping isn't just a passive thing. It's, it would be kind of nice if we had a little pause button, but we don't. But there's a ton of biochemistry going on behind closed eyelids, and it's a critical daily need for being truly well, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And there are ways to stack the deck in your favor, and I teach you all about that. All right, so wrapping it up. Number 12 is mentioned in step number 1. The default setting of the human is procrastination. So it's imperative to take immediate action, and taking the correct action is critical. Not too little, not too much. Having a skilled advisor in the mix is a way to compress the learning curve. You stave off quitting, and it helps you break through those mental barriers. Remember the shoulding, and it helps you get to where you can get on track and to get to where you were going at one point in life. It helps you break those mental barriers that you didn't even know were keeping you back. It's a tape we run over and over and over. So that's where step number 12 shines. Don't go it alone. Now, I'm as independent as they come. It's a core value. And I teach clients how to be independent as well. I want you independent from the hype. I want you immune from it. I want you immune from drugs, from taking conventional wisdom at surface value, from fake food, heck, from fake friends, from all these limiting beliefs we've taken on. I want you independent from everything that does not serve you well, because everywhere you turn, you will be faced with some sort of marketing trying to influence you into buying a life of dependence marketed as convenience. Oh, they're slick. I told you. So everywhere you go, you have to build up an immunity. You do this through education and flexing your habit muscle. Okay? So I couldn't say it any better than Mr. Jim Rome. Now I quote him often. I'm a big fan. We must all suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret and disappointment. No truer words. So this is how we do things at ROXO. And I'm offering you an opt-out of the future that so many Americans are destined to have. Nobody has ever broken down this process for them as I just did for you. And this was just a surface view sample of what coaching entails. Most people have never had a coach in their adult life. And being coachable is a learned trait. And it's a game changer for every aspect of your life, well beyond your health. This is how you build in accountability. Because how many times have you started a diet and then you got off track and quit? A couple, 5, 10, dozen, too many to count if you're like most. See, my coaching system is how you stay on track. You get a weekly accountability checklist, and that helps you plan out your week day by day. Every week builds upon the skills and tools of the last. See, failing to plan is planning to fail. Now, I've been a certified life coach for over 10 years. That, alongside my 25-year career as a holistic doc, it really gives me a truly unique perspective. And I use every bit of my experience when I work with clients. I've seen just about every scenario walk through my door or show up on my screen. And I approach each and every person as a unique mystery to be solved. I love a good mystery. See, coaching with me, it is literally the quickest way to get from where you are now to the best version of you possible. That more fit, more energized, more alive version that you may have all but given up on because everything you try is another lesson in failure. Well, my friend, the revolving door of failures stops here. Remember, I told you, this is the day. So my done for you system, it combines the best of 3 worlds. Starts with what you eat. We're going to look at a lower carb, adequate protein. It's not high and it's not low. It's just right, Goldilocks. And we're going to do an optimized nutrient timing. Along with that, we look at using healing fats. Okay. So here's a peek at my menu for one day earlier in the week. All right, so I have my first meal at lunchtime. So I usually make extra for dinner the night before and have it when I break my extended fast the next day. And I've got this whole thing, I plan out my meals and I have a couple different rotations. It works beautifully. Now dinner this day, I had seared tuna and bacon cream sauce with lemon butter asparagus. And I made enough for, breaking my fast the next day. And it was totally drool worthy. And for dessert, I had this awesome, it's like a really creamy yogurt that I recommend. And I crushed blueberries or blackberries in it. And then I use this toasted walnut oil. I'm a foodie. Like, I love food. There are no sticks, berries, and weird chalky drinks and crap like that. Crap like that on this diet. This way of eating it is real food and it is delectable. And you don't have to be a foodie for it because I teach you how to cook it. I've got all the recipes, all the meal plans for you. Very, very simple. Everything you need in the exact sequence that you needed is at your fingertips. All right. Everything I got you. When I say I've got you, I really do. I've got you. All right. And I don't ever just partially do anything. Like I jump in full. I got it. So now when you add restorative motion training to food choices that we've just gone through, you're going to hit the trifecta. RMT, as I call it, or restorative motion training, it was developed and perfected by yours truly. Remember, 25-year career as a chiropractor on the front lines. I worked with a lot of people. Restorative motion training helps you become the athlete of your life because your body is designed to move. Why else do you think you have so many bones and muscles? A place to hang clothes? No, they are there to generate energy for the brain, the place where life is experienced. Your body is basically a brain transport system. Take care of it. So here's a peek into one of the workouts. It's for the week 7 program. Now I have 6 different exercises that we alternate between weeks. Everything is laid out exactly for you, demonstrated for you, the timing, everything is there. And we build in rest and to restore and renew. Okay, it's incredibly important. Now, every workout meets you where you're at. And this is something you can do at home. Now, you can go to the gym, absolutely, but you can do this at home. And as you progress, you can just purchase a little bit of equipment, easy enough, get it online with Amazon Prime. That's how I get mine. Free shipping, even the heavy stuff. It's pretty cool. But I've got you covered with this, okay? All right, so I want you to just keep in mind that having a process that's already been demonstrated to be highly successful is the place to start. No willy-nilly, no hope and pray weight loss, right? So with all this, you're going to dial in a sleep strategy that promotes a restful slumber and further tames the stress by lowering your weight set point as well. Remember, I mentioned that earlier? So the ultimate goal, that is to unveil the healthiest version of you. And I set up a 4-phase program for you, which we get underway by joining the 12-week metabolism reset. And I want you to use those tools in the rest of your life because they are yours. You know them. You have the knowledge. You've already developed the habit over 12 weeks, and you just continue doing that. You don't have to buy all these crazy programs. Total waste, total bunk. See, when you really dive in and embrace and own what I teach you, you will never go on a lousy diet again, ever. Well, I get, now you pretty much have my strategy. So actually, I guess you could just go ahead and develop your own specific plan. Now, there's a few things you will need. Let me take a little sip of water, get started, and rattle them off. All right, so you will need a background in science and stats to cull through all the research. There's a lot of it. Years of physiology and biochemical education to understand what all that mumbo jumbo says. You'll need a ton of psych experience to tap into your own behavior. Now, word of warning, it can be very scary up there. Tread carefully. So now it will take you decades to do this if you quit pretty much everything else and just go all in. Or, novel idea, you can hire me and put my expertise and my 12-week metabolism reset to work for you. I think the choice is pretty simple, but I try to keep things simple in my life. Now, sure, you could go online and you could print off some meal plans. You could research the latest in sleep studies. You can move in with a yogi. You can have a personal chef come by a few times per week for you and said yogi. That would have to be after, of course, you've killed yourself in the gym with Hans or Franz. But you are going to miss out on the one thing you won't find anywhere else. Want to take a guess as to what it is? It's me. Because you will never find a coach with my unique talent for teaching, troubleshooting, and tough love. I am the best I know at this trio of talents. I don't have lots of talents, but I got these. These are mine. I have honed them. I own them. And I used to think that talking like this was braggadocious and that it was, uncouth. But you know what? This is so much bigger than me and my level of comfort and, self-promotion. This is about saving people. And if I don't let people know that I'm here, I'm willing, and I'm more than capable of helping, then I have failed to see through my purpose for being alive. See, every week on the 12-week metabolism reset, we meet online to troubleshoot ideas and issues. You get feedback on your progress and anything that's going on, and we have a heart-to-heart, okay? This is critical. The screen just blocked out a little bit. Sorry about that. Now, the only thing I cannot do for you is commit. That is all you. I have got everything else covered. But now's the time to decide. Are you willing to have a real conversation with me about changing your life? Or do you want to keep going it alone? If you think going it alone is your best bet, let me just ask you this. How much longer are you going to lone wolf it? 1 year? 2 years, 5? And do you have that kind of time? Because remember, this insulin resistant, it is rampant and it leaves a wake of destruction behind. This is your time to change courses and evade that bleak future that really so many Americans are headed towards on that express train. Now remember, everything you want is just outside your comfort zone. So what do you want? See, most of my folks, they find their way to me after years of struggle. I mean, they're struggling with their weight, they're struggling with their overall health, their lack of direction in life, and some variation of all three. It is not uncommon, especially in our phase of life, right? Questioning what it's all about and is this all there is? It's a very natural thing at this point. But also the biochemical fallout has had time to accumulate and has absolutely changed the playing field for good. See, unless we correct those problems, all the diets in the world will not produce lasting results. Here's what I advise. Number one, decide that this is the time to take care of you. Now, remember my story. I know where you're at mentally and physically. I have been there. And now I specialize in helping people who are frustrated with where they're at. You see, because they're like I once was. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're continually caught in this revolving door of failure. This is what my private clients were experiencing, and they were willing to step out of that expert consensus box like I did. And I advise you take this same approach. I am right here with you every step of the way. So our first step on that journey together begins with a lifestyle inventory. Now, your lifestyle inventory is the key to getting you from where you are now to where you want to be, body and health-wise. It is an incredibly thorough assessment of your habits, your eating patterns, your exercise. I also assess your stress, your sleep, your goals, what stacks the deck in your favor, and what is sabotaging you. Then we have a 30-minute one-on-one call to go over the results in detail. Now remember the 12 steps. You cannot get to where you want to go if you don't know where you're currently at. And when left to our own devices, we procrastinate. It's just a human thing. Can we agree on that? I mean, I still do it. Okay, cool. We got that agreement. Now, since coaching with me is the quickest way that I know to get you from where you are now to the best version of you possible, we need to have that open conversation. That is the next step. Now, I usually charge $397 for the lifestyle inventory and the hours it takes to generate the report, now along with the 30-minute call. But I'm feeling rather generous because my birthday's coming up. Yep, the big 4-7. It's right around the corner, actually. And I want to give you a gift because that's just how I roll. So when you raise your hand and let me know you're interested, my internet minions will fire off a link, and it's going to have the lifestyle inventory and my calendar attached. You'll receive the exact steps to take on that timeline, and to take them, you'll get all that within this email, okay? Now, the only caveat, I take on 10 clients at a time, max. That said, I work off a first come, first served basis. Now, it's the only way I know to keep it fair. Remember step number 1, take immediate action. Yeah, this is one of those times that it really matters. And I look forward to seeing your name pop up on my calendar. That's it for now. Bye-bye.